I think this would be an anomaly anywhere it would have taken place, whether it's Southern Ohio or anywhere else.
I think this would be an anomaly anywhere it would have taken place, whether it's Southern Ohio or anywhere else. That single line, delivered by a former county prosecutor, was not about a murder case. It was about 16 children found inside a single house in Vinton County, Ohio.
New video shows the reactions of those 4 Ciders family members as they were taken to jail after deputies said they found 16 children in their home.
Newly released jail intake video shows the 4 adults arrested in connection with that house being brought into custody. The footage is procedural, it is slow, and it is damning in ways the state has not yet fully articulated.
I'll take you through these videos and what they show us, and we'll also look at what's likely going on inside the investigation right now. I'm Anjanette Levy, and this is Crime Fix. Four members of the Ciders family were booked into jail more than 2 weeks ago on child endangering charges, and we
think of a doorway that was never knocked on hard enough. Not because the door was hidden, but because the street behind it had learned to look away. That is the visual this case leaves behind. Before we go deeper into what the documents actually show, make sure you are subscribed to Trial and Crime, because we do not just cover the story, we follow the evidence.
4 members of the Ciders family were booked into jail more than 2 weeks ago on child endangering charges, and we now have video just released of those family members being taken to jail. Only 3 of the Ciders remain in jail at this point. Gary Ciders Jr., his wife Elizabeth Ciders, and his mother, Christina Ciders. She goes by Lynn. They're being held on a $300,000 bond each. Gary Ciders Sr. was released from jail to a hospital for treatment for a serious medical condition, so he's no longer in.
4 members of the Ciders family were booked into jail on child endangering charges. Gary Ciders Jr., his wife Elizabeth, his mother Christina, and his father Gary Sr. Gary Sr. has since been released to a hospital for a serious medical condition. The other 3 remain held on $300,000 bonds each.
In jail. All 4 Ciders family members have pleaded not guilty to the charges, but the investigation, it's continuing. The 16 children range in age from 1.5-year-old twins to an 18-year-old. The Vinton County prosecutor says those children were found in the house on Omer Street, living in squalor on June 30th, as deputies and state agents executed a search warrant in connection to another investigation. All of the children are now in foster care.
All 4 have pleaded not guilty. The 16 children removed from the home range in age from 1.5-year-old twins to an 18-year-old. The prosecutor says deputies found them living in squalor on June 30th while executing a search warrant tied to a separate investigation.
But we really don't have any information about their conditions or how they're doing. We know they're in therapeutic foster care. But now we're getting our first look at the parents and grandparents of those children being taken to jail. Video from
the children are now in therapeutic foster care. But the phrase, therapeutic foster care, does not tell you what happened inside that house. It only tells you what the state had to do after it finally went inside. The paperwork already knew.
The jail's Sally Port shows a sheriff's van pulling into the jail. The Ciders aren't the only ones in the van, so it takes some time for the corrections officers to get them out of the vehicle. The first Ciders family members that jail staff removed from the van is the oldest, 73-year-old Gary Ciders Sr. It appears the officers are having some trouble getting him out of that van. They're at the back of the vehicle for a while as they try to help him out. And then an officer brings a...
The jail Sallyport video begins with a sheriff's van pulling into the facility. The first person removed is the oldest, 73-year-old Gary Sr. Officers struggle to get him out. They bring a wheelchair. He is shackled at the ankles and cuffed at the front, attached to a belly chain.
Wheelchair out from the jail so Gary Sr. can sit in it so the jail staff can safely move him into the jail for the booking process to begin. Now, we know that there are concerns about Gary Sr.'s health and his ability to walk. He's currently being treated for a serious medical condition at the hospital, but back on June 30th, that serious medical condition wasn't known to jail staff. That was only discovered after he fell on the way to jail and was taken to the hospital for that injury. At this point, Gary Sr. is safely in the wheelchair, and the officers prepare to move him from the Sallyport to the...
Gary Sr. appears thin, wearing pajama bottoms, a white bandage on his shoulder. He seems disoriented. The serious medical condition that later sent him to the hospital was not known to jail staff at that moment. It was only discovered after he fell en route to jail.
The jail, he appears to have a white bandage on his shoulder. Why? We don't know. At the same time, other officers are trying to get Gary Jr. out of the back of the van. Gary Jr. is in handcuffs, so he is pulled from the back of the van so he can be led into the jail hallway with his father. Interestingly enough, Gary Ciders Sr. is shackled at the ankles, and he is also handcuffed at the front. Those cuffs are attached to a belly chain to keep him secure. A male corrections officer wheels Gary Sr. into the hallway. This is the area where an initial search of inmates is conducted. Every jail has an area similar to this one. You'll notice that Gary Sr. is not shackled at the ankles like his son. Gary Sr. is wearing pajama bottoms, and he seems a little out of it. Gary Jr.
Then Gary Jr. is pulled from the van, shackled at the ankles, cuffed, belly chain in place. He is told to lean against the wall for a search. One detail stands out immediately. Gary Jr. appears well fed. His father appears frail. The contrast is visible in the same frame.
Trails behind his father, again shackled at the ankles and handcuffed, and those cuffs are held in place by that belly chain. The officers tell Gary Jr. to lean up against the wall, and then they uncuff him so the booking process can begin. One thing that I notice here, Gary Jr. appears to be pretty well fed, and his father appears thin. We don't know how well the children in the home were eating, but Gary Jr. doesn't appear to have missed many meals. As an officer uncuffs Gary Jr., he's told to stand against the wall, and then the officer moves to unlocking his ankle cuffs. The officers will then remove Gary's.
The question no one in that Sallyport was asking out loud is the one the state is now trying to answer through medical records and device extractions. How does a father look like that while his son looks like this? And what did that mean for the children inside that house?
Senior's handcuffs. As this entire process is unfolding in the hallway, Christina Ciders and Elizabeth Ciders remain in the Sallyport in that sheriff's van. Eventually, one of the officers looks inside Gary Jr.'s mouth to make sure that he doesn't have anything in there. And then Gary Jr. is taken to another area of the jail for further processing. Gary Sr. sits in the wheelchair as this is going on, and we don't know what he's thinking or feeling, but eventually he seems to put his head in his hands.
Christina and Elizabeth remain in the van during the initial searches. When they are finally brought inside, Christina is cuffed but stands upright. Elizabeth is not cuffed. She is carrying papers. Her body language is different. She is practically cowering.
He continues to sit in that wheelchair as the jail staff continues their work. Several minutes pass. Then it's Gary Sr.'s turn to be searched, but he needs help getting out of the wheelchair. He can't do it on his own. He's searched to make sure he doesn't have anything on him like a weapon. Now it's time for the officers to bring Christina Ciders and Elizabeth Ciders into the jail. Christina is let in first. She is handcuffed just as her son and husband were, but she isn't shackled at the ankles. And you may notice something interesting here when you see Elizabeth Ciders. You'll notice she's carrying some papers, but Elizabeth Ciders isn't handcuffed. Christina enters the jail hallway first. Elizabeth follows behind, and both have papers in.
Elizabeth has no criminal record. This is her first time inside a jail. She is patted down. She sits for intake. Her hair is wet. She looks around the room. A mark on her left arm is visible in the video and in her arraignment footage. The state has not said what caused it.
Their hands. Christina's handcuffs are connected to a belly chain just like Gary Jr., but she is not shackled at the ankles. Christina stands up straight, but Elizabeth's body language appears to be much different. She's practically cowering. She looks scared. The corrections officer asks Christina a number of questions, which she appears to answer. Elizabeth simply stands by and watches as this entire process unfolds. Then it's Elizabeth's turn to be searched. After answering a few questions, she's patted down the whole 9 yards. This process
Here is what the video does not show. The 6 older children had not been in school since at least October 2021, according to complaints filed in Gallia County. That is not a gap. That is a pattern. It is called educational neglect under Ohio law.
Takes place before each of the Ciders family members are moved to another area where each is given an orange jail jumpsuit to wear. It's standard issue. All of the Ciders were moved into another area for intake, and they're asked a number of questions by a jail staff member. You can see Elizabeth sitting here. Her hair is wet, so it appears she had a shower. Her hair looks different from her mugshot. Elizabeth looks around at times. She doesn't have a criminal record, so this is the first time she's been to jail. Elizabeth also has a mark.
Former Pike County Prosecutor Rob Junk confirms the legal standard. When parents keep children out of school for months or years, that is parental education neglect. He says he would have filed charges. He says this case is an anomaly anywhere, not just in Southern Ohio anywhere.
On her left arm, and it looks like a bruise. We don't know what caused that mark. It's also visible in video from her arraignment. Gary Sr. is wheeled into the same area. It's the same process. There's no audio, but he's asked a number of questions. At one point, he appears to get comfortable and leans back in the wheelchair and even crosses his legs, just kind of sitting and waiting for what's next. A similar process takes place for Christina Ciders. She sits in the same area and answers questions. And then Gary Jr. goes through the intake process. He is asked, along with his family members, a standard set of questions. Gary Jr. sits and answers questions that he's asked, just as his family members did. Gary's intake form says that he either uses drugs or alcohol or is under.
The Attorney General has said electronic devices seized from the home will be analyzed by the crime lab. That is the key phrase in this entire investigation. Downloading devices, not just because of what the children posted, because of what the parents may have hidden.
The influence of one or the other. Jail staff documented several tattoos on Gary Jr. They have names and hearts and crosses. One is a cross with a sword. One is an outlaw tattoo with a peace sign. In the intake video, you can see Gary Jr. show the officer asking him the questions his arms. He later shows his legs, likely showing the many tattoos. At one point, Gary Jr. looks back and he waves at someone. We don't know who he's waving at, but he appears to talk too.
The children had social media accounts. They had phones. The accounts show no family photos, no selfies, just reposted anime and TikTok videos. Some of the videos are sad. They read like children crying out for help without ever saying the words. The paperwork already knew.
But there are so many questions that remain in this case. Many, many questions. What is going on with this investigation? Why did the deputies go to the house in the first place with a search warrant? Gary Jr. also faces 4 public indecency charges related to alleged incidents at his home during the last week of May, but that likely wouldn't be enough to get a search warrant. The deputies were looking for evidence of a crime at the home. That's what a search warrant is for. And the Attorney General has said electronic devices seized from the home will be analyzed by the crime lab. The Columbus Dispatch has reported that 2 other Ciders family members, one a cousin of Gary Sr., married a 15-year-old girl.
So the question becomes this. If the children had phones and those phones are now in the hands of BCI's cyber crimes unit, what is on those devices that made the Attorney General mention downloading them before anything else? What did someone type, record, or search for that led to a search warrant?
So there are 2 other members of the Ciders family that had teen marriages. How common is that in Southeast Ohio? So I'd like to bring in Rob Junk. He is the former Pike County prosecutor, also currently a common pleas court judge in Pike County, the only common pleas court judge there. And he actually was the prosecutor when the Roden and Gilly family members, the 8 members of that family, were murdered back in 2016. Rob, thanks so much for coming on to talk with me about the Ciders case.
Oh, you're entirely welcome.
Talk to me right now, from your perspective as a former prosecutor. What do you think?
And there is another thread. 2 other Ciders family members reportedly married 15-year-old girls. Elizabeth herself married Gary Jr. at 15, crossing into West Virginia to do it. That is not a rumor. That is a record. And under Ohio law, an adult having sexual relations with a child under 16 is a felony.
Think is going on in this investigation right now? You're in the county right next door in Pike County, next to Vinton. So what do you think is happening as far as getting information together for the grand jury and the investigation?
I think probably the most important thing that they would be working on now is medical exams on the children, full medical workups, interviews, which probably taken place early on of the suspects. But it's a major thing is getting good medical workups on all the children to document.
The gag order in Gary Jr.'s case is being challenged at the Ohio Supreme Court. Christina's attorney requested a non-dissemination order. The judge has not ruled. The prosecution has not responded. That means the information flow is not closed. It is contested.
Document any type of abuse or neglect that may have taken place and how it took place.
And I think that's a good point. They were all taken to the hospital on June 30th when they were found, and they were all evaluated. Some were in the hospital, it seemed like for 2 or 3 days, possibly maybe even longer. One had to be intubated. We don't know the age of that child, but...
Here is the final unanswered question. The jail intake forms and the Salaport footage are now public record. You can read them, you can watch them. And when you do, ask yourself one thing. What did the deputies expect to find when they first walked through that door? Go pull the Vinton County Court docket and the Attorney General's public statements. Then tell me in the comments what you think the search warrant was actually for. Like this video, share it, subscribe to Trial and Crime, and turn on notifications. We follow the evidence, not the press release.